So I'll live. So I'm going to start this meeting at 7 p.m. on January 20th. And everyone is here. Do a quick roll call. And David King,
Hey, good evening.
Karen Christensen, you're here. Tom Lansner.
Here.
Ooh, Bill Syme.
Yep.
And Tom Talamini. Hi, Tom. You're on mute.
Hi, hello.
Hi. All right, so the first is going to be the approval of the agenda. If somebody would like to make a motion, if there's nothing that we need to,
This is Bill. I'll move we approve the agenda as presented.
is there a second?
Second, Tom Talamini.
All right, any discussion? All right, all those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
Dave King,
Yes,
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
and Tom Talamini.
Yes,
All right, so approval of minutes. November 18th.
I'll move we, this is Bill. I'll move we approve them as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, Tom T.
Okay, is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
Dave King,
I will abstain for the 18th.
yep. Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes, approve.
Tom Talamini.
Yes,
All right, motion passes. And the second would be meeting minutes of December 16th. Approval.
This is Bill. I move we approve the meeting minutes from the December 16th.
Is there a second?
I'll second Karen.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes,
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
and Tom Talamini.
yes,
And motion passes. And we will move on to number 6, public participation. I guess hand raise would be great if anybody wants to. All right, I'm going to go with a no. And move on to number 7, communications. Did you all get the auditor's correspondence?
Yes.
Yes.
So you all read it over?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, I mean, we are gonna do some BOE and go down to the unfinished business of the annual report. So we can either discuss the auditor's correspondence now, or we can bring it down to annual report, however you guys would like to handle it. Any suggestions?
I think annual report, Tom T.
Okay. All right, so as long as you guys all have it, there is, and I've got to check with Amy, there was another auditor correspondence. But I don't think we got that in their packets, did we? Regarding the email with the unreconciled debit. Sorry, it's been a long day.
No, but he talks about it in this one. That's his bullet point number 2.
Yep.
It's the
So
same one. He just didn't put the dollar amount with it. But I didn't get that until after this package went out.
Correct. So that's why I think like I said, the email, the amount is kind of important. So, all right, we'll scoop it up down there. So we'll move on to number 8, monthly reports, and start with town FY 2021 financial reports. That would be you, Miss Amy.
I don't think I have anything to say unless anybody has any specific questions. Nothing earth shattering. I think building permits were almost at budget because we took in Silverman's permit. Tax collection looks fine. We're not seeing any big impact. Let's see what building says. Yeah, he's at 238,000 of his 250 for the year. But 204 of that was Silverman alone for the property on the corner of South Main and South Water.
Upwater, I think so.
And
I
nothing-
read through the, no, I read through the reports. I have no questions to ask.
Anybody else?
I actually do. Amy, is the, under interest income, is that 150 estimated revenue still seem feasible?
No. We are seeing very tiny returns.
Okay,
I think we're at some tiny amount right now.
yeah,
Yeah, we've brought in $12,000. So the money hasn't changed,
okay,
but that's how different the interest rates are right now.
yeah, okay.
So,
All right, anybody else? All right, so we will move on to 8B, BOE financial reports. I don't see Andy, so Christine,
Yes, actually, I think you got the BOE financial report that was shared at the last BOE meeting.
Yep.
We have, again, we're in a very odd academic year. We have some unallocated funds primarily because of things such as no subs are coming into the district. Not purchasing supplies at the rate we would have, because not in the buildings at the rate they had been. So at this stage, we're using our COVID grant money as we need for HVAC, some changes in our HVAC to meet the recommendations, which we've been doing, and cleaning, PPE, things along those lines. We're continuing to, bend those down as we had identified. And other than that, we're spending at a rate that we expected, with the caveat that some of the expenses we anticipated in a normal year aren't occurring.
This is Bill, looking at your reports, I just had a question, and I'm just looking at one line here, there's a couple other ones, but under health insurance, the
Yeah.
revised budget was for 1.9 million. And it says year-to-date expended 2.3 million with an encumbrance of 1.7 for a deficit of 2 million. Is that just
It's grants. We, some of the grants include health insurance. So we will shift those expenditures to the appropriate grants.
okay? And I assume that's the same, there was some Broadbrook School special ed aides, aid salaries and tutors and all that, same thing?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Some of that gets paid for out of our choice special ed reimbursement that we get in installments. And then some of that is paid for out of the grants. So those will get sorry, Bill. So it's been a long week since I came back.
Reclassed.
Thank you. Some of those will be reclassed to the grants.
Okay, yeah, I just was, looking at the numbers and I just kind of stood out a little bit, so I just figured I'd ask.
Absolutely, they do.
I just have one question. When he does this report for us, is it possible to always get it in the same order? Because every month it's different. And sometimes I look at a prior month to compare.
I would think maybe you could give me, can you give me one example?
Oh, okay, well, because the one I noticed this month was the health insurance. And I said, oh, what did it look like last month? And this month it's on the first page. And last month it was on the 5th or 6th page.
Huh. I will investigate why that might be and see
Thank
if
you.
we can do
Thank you
something
very
to
much.
address it.
It would make it easier.
I know that Andy has said to the board that he's still working on the formatting of the report a little bit to help make it more user-friendly. So there may be some shifts because of the changes that he's trying to make to settle on a final format.
Okay.
Geraldine, it's Noreen. I have a question.
Sure.
Kathy or Christine, are you guys using the Munis system now as the town side is?
We converted to Munis as of July 1.
So is it possible for us to get this Munis reports rather than the information out of Munis converted into Excel spreadsheets?
I will investigate that.
It's only because we're looking at the stuff from the town side in one format, and then we're switching to you guys and looking at it in Excel formats where things are not the same. And if it's going through Munis, to me, it's easier to just look at the Munis sheets.
I agree. And I was going to ask the same thing. So
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I know, we get requests from Board of Ed members too about how the reports can look. So I'll follow up with Andy and see what we can do to try and meet everybody.
And I know it says on the cover sheet, it says on the very bottom that attached is the Munis report, and I'm not sure if that means this Excel sheet or if there's Munis reports that are getting given to the Board of Ed and then they're getting converted back. I just prefer it all to be in one.
Yep, my bet, Noreen, is that references that this is information out of Munis.
Munis, okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
sorry, I just dropped all my papers. All right, anybody else? All righty. So we're going to move now on to number 9, which Jason, that would be you. Board of Selectmen updates, please.
Sorry, unmuting issues. So my budget presentation, my budget will be submitted to the town clerk by the 27th. And we are targeting, Chris, I think is it February 2nd for the joint public hearing?
It is.
That will include the superintendent's recommended budget to the Board of Ed and my recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. I also wanted to point out or put on your radar screen that there are 3 bargaining unit contracts that are up effective July 1st, 21. And so we have gotten demands to negotiate on 2 of those so far. And the 3rd one by contract needs to arrive by the end of February. So the term demand to negotiate sounds much more confrontational and hostile than it is. It's just the formal beginning of the collective bargaining process. It just is an unfortunate term that sounds adversarial. But so we've gotten demands so far from the clerical union and from the supervisors union, and we will be getting one from the just settled clerical or police dispatchers union. So I'll need a Board of Finance representative on each of those. I think that there is some likelihood that we will do supervisors, labor side and pension side together. So it would make sense for the Board of Finance representative on the supervisor's contract to be one of the representatives on the pension board as well, just that process. But I wanted to just make sure you guys were aware that all 3 of those are not just in the pipeline, but are practically upon us. I think those are my Board of Finance updates for now.
Okay.
I would encourage everybody to attend the public hearing on the 2nd, and also extend an invitation from the selectmen to the Board of Finance to join us for our budget presentations when departments present to us, which will be week just after Valentine's Day.
Sounds good. As long as we're talking to Jason about it, is there anybody right now that is interested in any of those union negotiations?
This is Bill. I mean, I could do one of them. Preferably one that'll be settled quickly, because once spring planting season starts, I kind of lose a lot of time. So I don't know which one would be the most beneficial for me to be on, but I can do one of them.
The quickest one to settle is going to be the dispatchers union because we're only going to be talking about economics. We're not going to be talking about the operational components of the contract. So it's just salary, benefits, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good in February, March, but once April, May hit, then it's the heat of the season for my employment job. So I could do that one then,
All right, and that, what did we say that was? Dispatchers, right?
dispatchers, yeah.
Okay.
This is Karen. I'll do supervisors then.
Okay. Karen, Bill. All right, and that would leave clerical. Anybody?
I'll probably be on, Jason, I'll be on the supervisors, right? If you're gonna loop in pension anyway.
Well, I think that just makes sense to have. There is a high likelihood we're going to be doing both the labor side and the pension side together.
Okay. I mean, I'm fine to take both. Obviously, I'm familiar with.
Sorry, David, for some reason I can't hear you. I'm gonna try to mute and see if we can hear you better if I mute. Hold on.
I don't mind doing clerical, and I will also probably be on supervisors if they're going to include the pension. So
All right.
add that to the.
Sounds good. So David, I'm gonna put you under clerical and then I'll let you decide supervisors with your pension board. How's that sound?
Yep.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. Okay, so now, thanks, Jason.
Yep.
Number 10, Board of Education updates and referrals. Is there anything else, Christine, or?
Well, obviously, Jason just made reference to our joint presentations at the public hearing. And we are working on, Board of Ed is working on setting all of our budget workshops, which will likely begin immediately or the day after the public hearing. So, and we obviously have the timeline that Amy had included in the packet for you folks tonight.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so number 11 is going to be new business, the budget calendar. You guys should have got that in your package from Amy.
And somebody pointed out that the public hearing on March 24th is not on here. It's on here as a workshop, but there should have been a public hearing on there.
Yeah.
On that same day.
All right.
So I will stick another line in here and then I'll add all the Board of Ed dates
Okay, perfect.
also.
All right, so does anybody have any questions other than fixing that? All right, we're just cranking right along here. All right, so then we're gonna move on to number 12, unfinished business annual report. I think this is where we stop cranking along.
All right, well, no, we'll do the annual part first.
Yeah.
The report got published. I don't know if everybody saw it. I think it came out really nice. Jason and his staff did a fantastic job getting it done. But so it's there, it's available at Town Hall. This is what it looks like when you walk in the lobby. There's a bunch there that you can help yourself. Those that picked up a package, I gave the annual report if they picked up a printed package. So I wanted to let you know that it did get, with our requirement, it did get done before the December town meeting.
Yeah, I have to say, I think this is one of our best yet. And I mean, Jason, you really have to give kudos to your office for doing such an awesome job.
Melissa and Amy worked together on that and it did come out really, really well. And it was a lot of equity. So kudos to them both.
You know, Amy likes to give credit to Melissa, but we know she worked hard too. And I love the bathroom. I'm just gonna say, the picture in Public Works of the bathroom, you know, might just be my favorite.
Somebody had to
We
get
couldn't
the
resist.
pictures of the new projects.
Yes, exactly. It's just good. It's great. You guys did phenomenal. So the part that we don't have to put with this is our financial ends of the deal when it comes to the audit. So you all were in with the letter. So, I mean, Amy, I'm going to kind of turn this over to you because you've been dealing with it on a day-to-day basis. I have a lot of concerns. So once you kind of go over the overview, I'm going to just express my concerns of, where we go from here, but let me just kind of hand it over to you for now and then go from there. How's that sound?
That's fine. So the part that isn't in this letter that we got in an email was that there's a $350,000 additional expense in between the Board of Ed interfunds that they can't figure out. But the bad news is it's a debit. So he did send a draft of the financials either Monday or Tuesday. I'm thinking, Tuesday, I guess. And in it said, oh, by the way, there's a $350,000 unreconciled difference that I can't find. So he gave it back to us and said, can you look and see if you can figure it out? So in the middle of budget is not really a great time to be trying to figure out audit. So I've done some looking. I can tell you that on the town side, all our interfunds are 100% balanced. There is an adjustment that needed to be made on Mike's financials for about $50,000, which was the beginning balance of interfunds on their cafeteria, their grants, and their FRC accounts. So the bad news is he doesn't know if that 50 goes one way or the other. So the number is either 300,000 or 400,000 that we discussed tonight. I don't know, somewhere around 4 o'clock, I was on the phone with him. So he asked me what we were going to do about it. And I told him, I think our only choice is to put it through as an education expense. But what that means is there's not a big return now that the education could then put into their 2% fund. But with the premise that he wants Andy to figure out what's wrong, why things aren't balancing in his accounting. So that's where we are right now. The other thing was just bank statements not being available. The person that was there at the Board of Ed wasn't there. So there was some trouble getting the bank statements. They finally got them to Mike. Mike did share, though, that he had to do a lot of accounting. So there could be a bill coming our way and they're not supposed to do our accounting because they're our auditors. They're supposed to be checking it, not doing it. So he expressed concern about how much extra work they had to do to figure out the financials for the Board of Ed by proofing out cash, taking all the bank statements, going month by month for expenditures, cash receipts. He found several things not booked, especially revenue taken in July and August that belonged to last year. So he has a lot of entries that need to be made for that. Because the Board of Ed didn't go to Munis, they didn't do any of their entries in Munis. So there's a whole bunch of entries that need to happen in Munis to get it in balance. So Mike has had to do a tremendous amount more work than he would have normally done, and more auditing, more accounting than auditing than he should have done. So basically that's where we are right now. We're not done. We did get a draft. It hasn't been reviewed. It still has that $350,000 difference. So I'm sure I'll be talking to Mike probably every day between now and next Friday when we finally have to issue. He still expects to issue by next Friday
Okay.
because we have a
So-
deadline of January 30th was our extension was only through January 30th.
Okay. That was one of my first questions was, and just make sure I'm right, because I don't want to be wrong. How many extensions have we gotten? One or two?
This one,
Okay.
our original due date was December 31st. He came to me maybe about the week before your December meeting and said, not going to have financials, but still think I'm going to be able to issue. And then about a week later said, nope, not going to be able to issue either. We need to file an extension. So after our December meeting, I had to file an extension for, instead of December 31st, for January 31st.
So second question, in this letter, he says bank statements requested from the school district not readily available, resulting in delays. But in his email to you, it says cafeteria funds and bank statements from the BOE. So I'm assuming it's the two. He just left it out of the quick email.
Well, the bank statements were for more than one fund. He was
Yeah.
missing, I think, cafeteria. He might have been missing FRC.
Okay,
Not sure if he wasn't missing grants. The only account that the town has anything to do with the Board of Ed is their general fund.
Yep.
The rest of the accounts we're not privy to. Those, some of them are at different banks even. They're not even at Webster Bank. So we don't have access to almost any of their bank accounts. So what they were trying to get was information that we didn't have to be able to give them.
all right. And then correct me if I'm wrong. So until we resolve all of this, you really can't start correctly your budget per se process for coming up.
Right. There's a technical thing that Munis can only let you have 3 years open. So I
Yeah.
can't open next year's budget without closing last year. I'm doing a workaround right now. I'm just not sure how it's going to look when I get all done and go to print a budget report.
All right.
But I
and-
really can't close until I get all Mike's adjustments. Mike wants to adjust Munis, so we have good beginning balances to start next year's audit. So Mike wants to flow through adjustments to all the different Board of Ed accounts to get cash balances correct, interfund balances correct, receivables, all the expenditures within Munis, so that the year can then be closed and roll to the next year. So Mike has a bunch of entries. I have not seen them yet. So I don't know what it's going to mean for work on my end to get them in there. But I am still waiting for that.
Has he given us any clue the charge that he's going to do to the extra charge for the BOE?
No, he did not.
Okay. All right, so my other question with the $353,190, maybe changing this entire 2% thing, how does that now, when we did our motion was basing it on at the end of the audit, what's left over, correct?
I don't think so. I don't know that we talked about audited financials at that time at all. We just thought there was that $478,000 that we could then move over there.
Right. But if
But
it's
Mike's
not
telling
there-
us that it's not.
Right. So if it's not there, you can't move what's not there.
That would be correct.
So, I mean, I'm sure, I mean, we'll read it over, but I'm sure if it's not there, it can't get moved. So, I'll open it to my board members. I think those are most of my questions, not my thoughts, but my questions, but, anybody else?
Yeah, I was just pulling up the minutes to see how the motion was made for the 2% here, if I can just, I think that's right here somewhere. And my motion was to transfer the 478 from the operating surplus, it says. So if there's no surplus, I guess it doesn't go. That's the way my motion read.
Makes sense.
So I guess that, so, I guess my only comment is that we're dealing with public funds, and it seems like there's an issue here, and it's, it doesn't look good amongst the town. I mean, I don't know how public this is or anything like that, but it's always seems to be a big discussion over the Board of Ed financials when we come to the budget session, and here we are trying to do another budget session, and we can't close last year's out properly. It's not a good situation that when you try to put a budget forward to the town and asking for more money, and they turn around and say, well, we're not managing your money that you have already. So I mean, I guess that's my comment. It just doesn't look good if we can't balance our books out. And the year was closed 6 months ago, almost 7 months ago, and we're still trying to figure it out. I can't speak to the problem because I'm not involved in it all the time, but I think it's something that seriously needs to get looked into, because it seems like every year, and maybe not as bad as this year, but it seems like we have some issues every year.
Anybody else?
Carolyn, Maureen, Christine or Kathy, do you have any explanation or reasoning, or are you working through it?
So I'd like to share a few things. It's Christine. First of all, the bank statements have all been provided. There was an unfortunate circumstance where myself and our other person in the business office with access to the online accounts were out on medical leaves. We have addressed that issue with other folks now having additional access. So I don't anticipate that ever being an issue, nor do I hope to ever be out on a medical leave for the reason I was. So hopefully that will be the end of that. I'm very interested in the comments that Amy's sharing, that Mike shared, because when we talked with him this morning, he didn't share some of that with us. So I think it might serve us to have a conversation and maybe outline the things that he shared with you that he did not share with us. I just think it would put us in a better place to have the same information, which clearly we do not have all of. We had a conversation with Mike this morning where he did share the interfund balance issue and shared that he would be willing to continue working with us to try and figure out where that was. And that that's our intention, to continue working to try and figure out if that's something that's on our side, or if we can identify where that it has occurred. We certainly don't want to have anything outstanding in the audit on our end. But I would like to share, the past 2 audits have gone relatively smoothly, all things considered. And we have had some issues with the transition with Munis, and we talked about those with Mike. And again, I think, and he agreed this morning on the phone with Andy and I, that really, since July 1, after the conversion, we really shouldn't have the bulk of any of these questions, because both the town and the Board of Ed will be working on the same program. So we are aggressively looking at everything to see if we can determine anything to do with that variance. But that's all I can say. We're not happy that this is occurring, and we don't think it's acceptable for there to be questions, but we certainly are doing everything in our power to resolve the issue. And we're addressing it. So, but Amy, I think really it might be a good conversation for us to touch base about where things are, because the details that you just shared about your conversation with Mike are not he did not share all of that with us this morning.
So when I got off the phone with him, he was going to call you guys. He told me that it was fine to share and that he was making a phone call to you next. So I don't know what happened that he didn't get in touch with you guys after he talked to me.
Yeah, so I just think it might be helpful if we are able to have that conversation, and then we can go from there with the same information, so that we're not, we're just not in a different place. That's all. I think it would be helpful. So, so that's, obviously we're working to identify that as quickly as possible.
Christine, with the bank statements though, like in his email to us, it pretty much said he just got, I know you guys have been going through with the office manager and other stuff, and I fully get that. But he literally pretty much said that like they just got them, just recently received it. So, I get what you're saying, but, and I guess my other question is with Andy, he doesn't have access to the statements. I would think he does I don't know, that to me would make sense that he does, but maybe he didn't. And I don't know.
So I got back from my medical leave on, I believe I had my surgery December 17th. I believe I came back to work, I believe on the 11th, and I think he had all of the bank statements within 48 hours.
Okay, so before then he couldn't, that was my question, I guess, that he, before this whole thing, didn't have access to the statements, like as or whatever his title is as consultant.
So generally, he didn't have online banking access, and that's where the glitch came in, is that the other person in our office who was on a leave generally is the one receiving the online bank statements and printing them out. And believe since we went to online banking, she had been accessing those. And then I gave what we had been set up with the bank. I talked with them before my leave about setting up the online banking to make sure that someone in the business office had the availability to get the statements. And unfortunately, the setup that they gave us only allowed for a limited number of statements to be available. So I had to get back. They won't give any information about accounts to someone who is not a signer on the account. And that, you know, in almost every case is me. So, but that, like I said, Geraldine, that issue has been addressed and will not occur again.
This is
Go ahead,
Bill
Bill.
again. Go ahead. Someone talking?
No, go ahead.
My question is, so in reality, I mean, like I said, in December, we talked about a $478,000 surplus, but in reality, we don't know exactly if you do have a surplus of $478,000 at this time, correct?
Well, assuming the variance, which again, when we had the conversation with Mike, he, you know, said, do we know that it's on the Board of Ed side? And he said, no, it could be a number of things that he talked about with us. So I understand why the conversation is what it is, but certainly when we gave you that amount, it was in good faith.
Well, I'm not saying it wasn't within good faith. I mean, mistakes happen, but it's unfortunate because it's I was kind of hoping that money would be there for you, but maybe it still will be. I don't know.
So based on the conversation again with Mike, I mean, it does remain to be seen where the variance occurred. So, you know, we certainly want the opportunity and are taking time to go through all of our records to do what we need to do to see if we can determine where that is.
Because again, you know, my point, and it's just that it's public money, and then, you know, and 300 and something thousand is a lot of money, whether it's, I don't, you know, whatever side it's on, it's a lot of money. That's all.
I could not agree more, Bill, which is why we are so adamant that we would like to resolve the issue.
So one thing I kind of picked up on, and Amy, you had mentioned when you spoke with Mike that there were like issues with the accounting and things not entered. Who enters that information? Who's responsible for that?
Well, I guess at the business office, it was the person who's now on leave. So I think that's part of their issue, except she didn't go on leave until October. So you're talking about, this is accounting from June, July, August. So really 100% of everything that happened in the summer should have been done by October. The auditors normally start Columbus Day week. So normally all our stuff has to be done and closed by the middle of October. They extended us till November, giving us some more time, knowing we switched to Munis and knowing that there was COVID exposures where people were missing or not being in the office and things were a little more difficult. But even then, the bulk of the work should have been done before then. It should not be that things are just being found now by Mike. That happened in July and August that he now has to record.
I just, you know, especially like taken together, when you have those two things, it paints not a great picture. You know, what can we expect, I guess, going forward so that things like that don't happen?
I don't know, on our side, we do all our revenue recognition. We do all our accounting. Our books are done by mid-October. Our financials are, I'm putting together that whole big audit that's 100 and something pages. I put together the bulk of the information in there. So I am working on that stuff by the time the auditors come. Our books are done, closed. We have an end of the year number.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
I guess more for the Board of Ed, you know, like what policy, like, is it reasonable to expect that, say, for our next meeting, we could have a policy in place so that, hey, here's the work order. It just looks really bad that we forgot to put in some entries in the summer. And now we also have a discrepancy. I mean,
Well,
like, those things just shouldn't be coming up in an audit taken together. And I'm sure, you know, we'll come to the bottom of the discrepancy.
mhm.
They're catching these other things.
Well, I assume you mean the deposit from the cafeteria fund that was referenced? Amy, is that the reference?
Yeah, the referring to the money that came in the summertime that related to last year. I don't know that it was only in one fund. I just know
I
that
don't-
Mike told me he had entries he needed to book for money that was received in July and August that related to last fiscal year that were
He
not
did
booked.
He did not tell me that.
Okay,
Some of what you're sharing about your conversation with Mike, he did not have with us. So that's why I'm saying I think it would be productive for us to have a conversation in the next day or so that we have all the same information, because you're asking, I mean, David, you're asking me to fix a problem that the auditor didn't
Yeah.
help me with, right? You know, at this point.
No, and I understand. And I'm not saying like, you know, we need a solution tonight, because I obviously know that we're all getting this information and it's new. But, you know, my point is like, I wouldn't want that to kind of fall through the cracks, because I almost think that's just as worrisome. Like, hey, you know, what are we going to do to make sure that everything is accounted for correctly going forward?
Absolutely. We are looking, anytime there's an audit and there's discussion about things that can be done differently, better, we always take those things very seriously. You know, I'm unfortunately at quite a disadvantage during this conversation, because again, some of the conversation is a little bit different. So I think it would be helpful, you know, for the Board of Ed and the Treasurer's Office to just compare notes so that we're working on the same problems. And then, you know, we are on Munis now. And so the accounts that the town previously needed to reconcile for the Board of Ed, will be taking care of those ourselves, and, you know, having all of the ability to have a true accounting program, which Phoenix never was for as long as it was in the district, which was way before me and way before Andy. You know, we'll be in a much different position. So we had talked about some of the issues between the town and the Board of Ed with financials, which is one of the reasons we were pleased to be going on to the same software, so that would eliminate some of those things.
Anybody else? Sorry. I was unmuting, but it didn't sound like I was unmuted.
Gerald and Noreen.
Yep. Go ahead.
So, because I don't know what's in the email. I'm just going by the letter that we got. They didn't discover the situation until they got the bank statements, Amy? Is that the gist of it?
yes.
Okay. Christine, our bank statements from these various accounts, and Amy as well, for all of our various accounts, are they not reconciled on an ongoing basis?
The towns are all reconciled. The Board of Eds were reconciled through April. Once they were not on Munis with us and we don't have access to their data, we could not reconcile their bank accounts for them after April.
So,
Okay.
oh, sorry, Noreen, did I interrupt you? Go ahead.
No, so I'm just trying to kind of get a grasp on at what point do we have an idea at what point the situation possibly happened? Because if we're reconciling all along things should be jumping out saying, whoa, wait a minute, how come this account has this on our books, but on the actual bank, it's something completely different?
My understanding is variance is not within these cash accounts, that it's the interfund, correct?
So, but he said it could be doubling up of outstanding checks. So we might have more outstanding checks because he said there's several checks of the same dollar amount. So he wants it to be looked at to see if those outstanding checks are really all outstanding checks, because if you reduce the outstanding check number, then your balance grows and now you have less of a difference. So it definitely could be cash related.
And we are working through those outstanding check issue. All of those have to be entered into Munis.
So, all right. Oh, sorry. I don't want to cut anybody out. So quick question, refresh my memory of why, and I don't know why I don't remember, but refresh my memory why we all didn't cut over to Munis the same way and we're not all on the same page already. Weren't we all supposed to do this together, cut over and remind me why we didn't do this and start with balances and all that stuff? Somebody, either Amy or Christine.
Well, I'll share. Originally, we were all cutting over July 1st, and then Munis came and said, oh no, financials have to go first. So they picked the date of April 1st, actually. And then along came COVID, people being out. We pushed it from April 1st to April 30th. But then went ahead and went forward. But it was the audit, it was the Munis people telling us financials had to go before payroll, and payroll wasn't going until July 1. But the Board of Ed did not choose to do that. They chose to stick with 7-1 for everything. So that's where the gap is.
Well, and Munis never identified that us going on 7-1 would be a problem.
All right. Anybody else right now? Okay. Well, I'm beating a dead horse right now, I think. So I
Sorry,
guess,
I have just one more question.
Yep, go ahead.
What's the absolute end date that the auditors can make a decision on this?
It has to be filed by January 28th, because that's next Friday. Or
Well,
the
I think
29th.
the even bigger problem though is that you guys can't, your February 2nd date of your, presentation, whatever. And we can't even really, I know you're working around, doing a workaround so that you can make next year's budget happen, but that's not a good place to be.
No, and I've asked Mike to give me all the adjustments he's already come up with for them so that I can at least get them in Munis. So I'll have to wait and see what his list is. He hasn't provided it to me yet. He just told me about it today.
All right.
I do understand though why he wants to do all the adjustments in Munis, even
No,
if
I
they
get
weren't using Munis, because he wants to clean. He's afraid of what 7-1 is going to look like if we don't clean up fiscal 2020.
Correct. Yeah, I gotcha. All right. Anybody else?
Yeah, Tom, tell me, this just seems like this is just good accounting practices that we seem to be missing out on here. Is there a reason that this isn't happening?
I'm going to say, Tom, quite honestly, I don't necessarily agree that it's not good accounting practices. The last couple of audits have been very uneventful. And there were definitely some things that occurred in the difference in the cutover date. And as I said a few minutes ago, Munis didn't tell us that there would be an issue with Board of Ed cutting over on a different date. And, we're working to resolve what the issues were, but, this has been an anomaly in the year. I do not see that this is an issue with not having good accounting practices on the whole.
All right, anybody else right now? Okay, then we're gonna move on to number 13, board member comments. Karen. Are you there, Karen Christensen?
I'm almost there. But I have nothing anyway. It's okay.
All right, sounds like a plan. David King.
No, I'm good, thanks.
All right, Tom Lansner.
I was trying to hit my unmute button before we move to the next topic. Seeing as time is the essence with the Board of Ed audits, would there be any point to having the auditor help close this out? I know we'd have to pay him extra money for that, but would he be able to help us meet that January 28th deadline?
Tom, from what I understand from Amy in her presentation, that he is helping out, and he actually is helping out more than he normally would be. So
Okay.
that unfortunately the BOE may be getting an extra bill for the audit. We don't know what the amount will be. So from our understanding right now, there is a little more extra help than normal going on. And you may see a bill. Well, we won't see a bill. The BOE will see a bill.
Okay. Okay, I had no other comments.
All right, Bill Stein.
I'd just like to say Happy New Year. Budget season's almost upon us. It looks like we're gonna be doing this over this stupid computer screen again. I would prefer to do it another way in person, but it is what it is. But it looks like we're getting close to getting back to normal, so I hope that we continue on the path that way.
And Mr. Talamini.
Yeah, I agree with you, Bill. I was kind of hoping we could do it in person. Also, I just hope that all this doesn't come down to the last minute and we gotta approve something that we don't have time to really look at it closely.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Our next meeting date, Wednesday, February 17th at 7 o'clock. But because of all of what's just come up recently, Amy, what I would ask is that you keep in contact with us more, with me, and I will make sure the board members get it. As things progress with the auditor, I'd like to, he usually CCs me on most of the stuff, but let's talk every couple days. And if we have to have a special meeting, or if we have to reach out to Christine and have a special meeting, let's get it done. If something's broken, it's got to get fixed. All right. Okay, so I motion to adjourn.
This is Bill. I'll move we adjourn.
All right, is there a second?
Tom, second. Tom
All
T.
right. Any discussion? All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
All right, motion passes and we are adjourned. Have a good month, week, days, stay safe.
Be good all.
Thank-
Bye.